Black at Work was created in 2020 following the murder of George Floyd. I enlisted the help of Ivy to come together to create a safe space for Black employees and to come up with ways that we can help you guys succeed in the workplace. And it's kind of just grown exponentially since then. We were online and then we started doing events in person, and this is the 10th one. And for this one, I thought it was really important that we did something that kind of looked at the areas of finance specifically, because I feel like as a community, we have so much spending power. You know, when it comes to consuming things, we're like the number one demographic in a lot of ways, but we're not harnessing that same thing within our community. So I thought it was great to have that conversation today. We have Mahari Hay, we have Natalie Scott, and we have Davies Okeowo, and then our wonderful host Ivy, who will introduce herself. So we'll kick off the conversation now, and then we'll have a Q&A discussion following the discussion with the speakers. And then we've got networking at the end, so please finish the food, please finish the champagne, and please leave having met someone that you've never met before. Thank you.
Thanks, Ren.
Thank you.
Okay, so hi everyone. I will take a seat. My name is Ivy, and as Ren said, when everything happened, she kind of contacted me and was like, "Oh, do you want to like host and get involved?" And I was like, "Well, yeah. First of all, anything for Ren because she's amazing. So yes, 100%. But what I do on my day-to-day is I work in diversity and inclusion. So I'm a diversity, inclusion, and equity specialist because we have to add the equity. And I work for various different companies. And I have for a long time. So essentially what I used to do was go into organizations and be like, why are there no Black people here? That's kind of it. Like, where are all the Black people? Why are we not in senior leadership? Why, like, kind of asking. And I did that in a kind of consultative basis. And then I saw that a lot of that came through hiring, HR, recruitment, strategy, operations, and then I moved more into that space. So that's kind of what I do now. I think tech is a really good space to enter because there's a lot of change that's happening in tech. Also, there's a lot of opportunities that are happening in tech. I know that there's recently a lot of stuff has happened in tech as well. So it's not all good, but I think it's really important that representation, we see it at the top, but all throughout any organisation in which we work, we should be represented and see each other. So of course, when Ren came to me with Black at Work, I was like, well, yeah, because we have a very unique experience as Black people. But not only do we have a unique experience, I often feel like our experience gets overlooked and kind of like it doesn't matter. So I think it's really important to kind of create these safe spaces and have experts and people who can really help. And a lot of the times I think that for me in my career, a barrier for me was access. So access to opportunities, access to knowing what does this job mean, what career do I want to do. I had a lot of questions that were unanswered because no one knew. No one around me knew. So yeah, speaking to people who know more, I've learned so much, Ren, through Black at Work, and I hope that you all enjoy it. So thank you all so much. And without further ado, we will start with our first guest. So yes, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, good evening everybody. My name is Mahari Hay. I work for Lloyds Banking Group. I've been with the company for 18 years. I look young, innit? Yeah, been there a long time. So started off in the call center and navigated my way through different areas of the business just to kind of grow my business knowledge. I actually come from a creative background in regards to, I've got a degree in graphic and media design and also another one in communications because I always kind of enjoyed simplifying complex information and trying to make it more digestible for people that come across that type of information. So people always ask me, so what made you switch from a career in terms of creativity and coming into the financial world? Same as anybody else, council tax, light bill. I needed to, grow my income, and I thought to myself, let me enter into the finance sector and just kind of see what happens from there. It's been a very fruitful career, just kind of traveled and navigated through different things. I'm now currently a director in our commercial banking space, looking after solution development, which is all about simplifying tech so our customers can retrieve and get their money quicker, and making sure it's a digitizing of trade products, trade like as in paperless, and just, create a more sustainable environment for our businesses. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm not sure if there's anything else, but we'll bring that out, I'm sure.
I think we'll bring that out. I think one thing that I want to ask you is, in terms of your whole career and everything that you've been through, now you're a director, which is really good. What's like one of the key lessons or one of the key things that you've learned through your whole journey?
So my mum used to say, right, if you can choose to be anything, choose to be kind, right? So I've met people in my career, and the way I articulate and communicate and become more personal with people, people remember you for who you are, right?
Character.
And people tend to invest in you as a person because any kind of thing that you have, transferable skills, you can learn on the job.
Yes.
But one thing you can't really fake is your personality and your character,
Yeah.
because people can see right through you. So I think it's about trying to become and be your true authentic self, because people like to work with people who can know who they are.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And when you bring your particular self to that environment, to that project, to that, workspace, people understand that you're bringing something quite niche, which is yourself, and your skill sets kind of marry those two things together.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That's brilliant. And then we have our lovely Natalie here.
Hi everyone, my name's Natalie and I'm a certified money coach. I've been in the industry for about 2 years now and I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to take you guys back just a little bit. So I actually come from a fashion background, and it was actually fashion that encouraged me to get into finance, and I'll tell you why. So fashion's big business, as we all know. And I worked with a lot of colleagues that would heavily throw their money back into a company. And that wasn't through stocks and shares. It was just through buying loads of clothes that they didn't really need. So it kind of spurred me to have these conversations with my colleagues as to why do they put so much money back into a company and why they're not saving their money or investing it. And a lot of them just didn't have the upbringing. They weren't taught it in school. We get that a lot. So I kind of wanted to go and change that. So I started coaching my colleagues on the spot. And then someone said to me, have you thought about taking coaching seriously? And I wasn't sure. So long story short, I studied, got qualified in the area, and I haven't really looked back, and I really enjoy it because I think finance, especially personal finance, is something that we all deserve to have knowledge on. And if we don't have knowledge on it, then my advice to you is to get the knowledge, because there's a lot of things, especially in our community, that we're not privy to, and we should be, because finance is for everyone. So at the moment, I consult with individuals. I go to schools. I went recently to the ballet school, and my job is to go into these young institutes and teach them about personal finance, so that when they're in their early 20s, they can't say that they never got a step up to learn. So yeah, I'm very passionate to be in this space, and it's a very welcoming space as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what the future holds.
Thank you so much. And I think I'll ask the same question for you. In terms of the main thing that you've learned, because you've worked in fashion and then now you're a money coach, and it's, for somebody on the outside looking in, it does seem quite different and different industries. So in terms of your journey and your process, like what was the one thing that you learned that you kind of took away, maybe to even navigate into a different industry or career path?
Not to copy Mahari, but it's all about being your authentic self. And I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but it's very true, because there's many people that are in this space right now. So clients can go to whoever they want to go to. But when they resonate with you, they're going to keep coming back to you.
Yeah.
So keep showing up as yourself, be who you are. There's a message that someone wants to hear from you, because they like the way you tell it and they like the experiences that you lived through and they're able to relate. So yeah, just be yourself.
Thank you. Yes, everyone, we're going to, before we get to Davies, I do want to say that when we do start the talk, we are going to encourage a lot of people to be relaxed and ask questions at the end. So we do want you to be yourself, and you can see that through our panel. We're very real. So we're going to get to it. So yeah, Davies, finally with you, could you please do your introduction?
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out in the evening, by the way. It's
thank
very
you.
important. My name is Davies, and I build businesses and I help other people build businesses. So background, I've been an entrepreneur all my life. Straight out of school, jumped into my first business, didn't work out, jumped in the second one. Worked out, did well, made a name for myself, moved to the UK from Nigeria. And Nigerians in the room? Oh, okay.
There's one.
Oh, yeah.
There's one, yeah, there you go, there's one.
Yeah, I moved to the UK from Nigeria, and so that's me building businesses. But even the areas where my businesses have done really well has been in.
Sorry, guys. Just mute the computer.
Right on cue.
There we go.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so even when I built successful businesses, those businesses have been in the space of helping other businesses. So my most successful business was a consulting company where we're doing accounting, taxes, strategy, pitch decks, financial models for other businesses. And so when I got to the UK, I did a bit of work at Birmingham Enterprise Community, was the community manager there, and then started, as I know how to do, as always, started a new company, designing pitch decks and doing financial models for entrepreneurs. However, that was short-lived for a good reason, because I got an offer from the Greater Birmingham and Solihull LEP. For those of you who don't know the organization, it's a publicly funded organization that serves as the first port of call for business support in the region. All the support we provide is fully funded by the government, and it's there for you to just take advantage of. I can get support on all sorts of things: sales, marketing, finance, and all sorts of different things. So I work in access to finance. So they offer me a role to help businesses that are looking to raise capital access the capital that they're looking for. I thought, you know what? I get to do what I love. I get to do what I know how to do, and I don't get to sell anybody anything. It's all fully funded. Perfect role. So put a pause to the business and joined the GBS LEP, and that was in January last year. And over the last 1 year plus, done really well. Helped about 37 businesses raise a total of 7.6 million. That's across equity grants, crowdfunding, all sort of different financing options. Delivered hundreds of sessions around access to finance, and we run a fundraising accelerator called Founders Collective, where we help entrepreneurs that are looking to raise capital accelerate their readiness for raising capital. So that's me in a nutshell. I do a few things on the side, but yeah.
Thank you. And for you, like, you've been an entrepreneur from day one. What piece of advice would you give? I think entrepreneurship seems very scary to people. I'll speak for myself, at least for me. And when I became a contractor, I was like, oh my goodness, that was a big jump for me. So what piece of advice would you give to anyone who maybe is thinking about it but is scared?
Doing makes a difference.
Okay.
It's what I say to myself. It's pretty much become my tagline. There is nothing anybody knows on earth that wasn't learned. So whatever it is that you want to do, it's meant to scare you. That's the idea. If it doesn't scare you, you probably shouldn't be doing it. So whatever it is you want to do, what really matters is just taking action, right? The difference between you and the most experienced person in your industry is just time and effort, right? If you commit the time and effort, you're going to achieve anything at all. So even if I'm scared, even if I don't understand it, I just take action. The action could be take an online course, speak to somebody that knows that industry, have a consultation, just get started. And, it's very important. It's been a recurring theme along my journey. And I think that just that cultivating that habit that I just have to take the action, whatever the action looks like to get started, it's really helped in a lot of ways, because what happens with a lot of us is we get into what I call analysis paralysis. We keep thinking about it, and the more you think about it, and one of the fancy ones we like to do is do some more research.
Yeah.
It's just additional analysis, and you do more and more of that. I want to read that book. I want to listen to that podcast. You're not doing anything.
Yeah.
You're not getting started. Just get it started, and then it goes from there.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, so now we're going to get right into it. Just before I start, I'm going to kind of like be real about this whole topic. So when we talk about finance, right, for me, the one piece of finance advice that I got was from my mum, and she said to me, don't ever borrow money to anyone that you can't afford to not get back. That was it. So when we're talking about finance, this is something that was very new to me. Like I was very much so self-taught. My mum didn't take out no credit card. She didn't owe no one no money. She said, I'm never going to take money from a man. That was her number one. Like, that's actually her number one. Like, don't let no man run your life, all of that. Like, she was like, if he could give it to you, he could take it away. For good or for worse, she always told me, make your own money and make sure that you keep your money and don't spend your money and da-da-da-da. And the only way you put your money is a bank. So when I came into investment and started to invest my money, she said that that's a scam. She still thinks like that. So you can imagine, right, that there's still this kind of like culturally, there's this just lack of knowledge around finance. So I do want everyone to know that we are going to be speaking about this. I want to say like entry, beginner, do you know what I mean? In the sense of like, everybody has different understanding around it. But for someone like me, the thing that I was told to do is if you're fortunate enough, buy a house. And that was like the ultimate dream, like to be able to afford your property. And even now it's even becoming, it's so hard to even do that, right? So when we talk about finance, I do want to kind of set the tone that it is for people who are kind of like have no idea. And then obviously we have experts here. So for people that do have ideas, you will learn from this. So when we're saying this and we talk about the importance of finance, how important was it to you all in your industry? How important was the representation of people in the finance industry? And how important is it to you now? And that's for everyone. That's for everyone.
Can I?
Yeah.
I think for me it was very important because if I cast my mind back to what I used to think finance was, I didn't see myself.
Yeah.
When I thought of finance, I saw a Caucasian man in a pinstripe suit. Yeah. So I think it's very important to me to be in that space so that we're changing what finance looks like for everyone. And I feel like only until we see more people that look like us in this space can we then think it's attainable for everybody. Because I still think like what you said about investing being a scam is quite interesting, because I spoke to someone today and they were like, I don't invest, I think it's a scam.
Right.
So it's true, and it was someone from our community. So I feel like we just need to change that, and the only way we're going to do that is if someone like myself is doing it.
Yes, and someone that looks like you, who is from a similar background, because we're both from South East London.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of we don't really get any education, right? So it's kind of like, where do you start? For the both of you, and I know that you grew up in Nigeria, so growing up in Nigeria, did you see people in finance, and what was kind of your understanding around money and investment and the importance of representation in finance?
I think for me, growing up in Nigeria, everybody's black. You don't even know that you're black. So representation was not a thing from the start. But me getting into finance was, first of all, I stumbled into studying accounting in uni. And so I learned very quickly around how to manage money and how to account for stuff. And, then my second year in uni, I found a fantastic gentleman who a lot of people don't like. His name is Donald Trump. I stumbled on an episode of The Apprentice, and I literally said to myself, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to build businesses. I want to create opportunities. I want to, change lives. And it was Donald Trump that made that happen. Sorry, some of you don't like him.
You see us rolling our eyes.
But in any case, forget about Trump for a minute. So from that point on, I literally just started consuming information compulsively from as many entrepreneurs I could find. Lord Sugar, Richard Branson, Donald Trump, Brian Tracy, Robert Kiyosaki, every book I could find. And so in that process of learning how, because I was in uni at this time, and so for me it was like, study as much as you can about building a business, so once you get out, you just start. Yeah. Right? And so in that process of doing all of that study, obviously, finance is a key component of business. So I stumbled upon a lot of learnings around this is how money works. Because if you're going to build a successful business, you've got to understand the mechanics of money. So for me, that's how I literally stumbled into it. And, as obviously time has passed with more exposure as to some of the challenges that people face across the world, particularly people from the black community, it's become even more necessary and even more evident, because if you think about our communities, right, there are many factors that contribute to it. One of the things, like you said, is that there is not enough education. The other bit as well is that, like Natalie said, there are not enough role models, right? When it comes to music, there's a lot of role models. When it comes to fashion, there's a lot of role models. When it comes to, but when it comes to money and finance and managing money, we don't have as much influences as we can have. So for me, it's just, I've always picked it up from a movie, follow excellence and success will chase you pants down. So for me, it's just like, be that guy that, just do your thing, be the very best at it. And then when people see what is possible, they just take subconscious cues, And
I love that it was like the education part as well. So you educated yourself, and if you didn't see representation, you were the change that you wanted to see. I think that's for everyone on this panel. And for you, who you started at Lloyds Bank, so what kind of made you be like, I want to work here and I want to invest and get into finance and work in the financial sector?
So I think probably for me, it's a case of 100% representation matters. So I think, coming from very humble beginnings, being born in Jamaica, I didn't have an aspiration to be rich. I just wanted to be able to be better than I was, right? So a mother that took a chance to leave her homeland to come to another country in order to say, maybe there's more opportunity and better things for you here in England. You know, let's try something new, etc. So coming into finance, so after I've done all the schooling and I've come into finance, working in the call center, I was money driven, right?
Yeah.
Because I was hitting targets, etc. And it wasn't until I came into finance, I saw the vast opportunity that was available. But when I was looking up the ladder and looking at structure charts and looking at people who could influence and help me motivate and have the right conversations and make the right contact, there weren't no one that looked like me. So now my drive has shifted from wanting to succeed, but I need to get into a place of decision making.
Yeah.
So when people look up the ladder now, they can say, Mahari's doing it.
He's done it.
How can I get a conversation with him? Because rewind 18 years, there weren't many people having these types of conversations, right? It might have been a part of your onboarding package, but it wasn't fixture in what you need to do. So now me being able to sit at the table and say, you know what, I think we need to look at how do we create a talent pipeline from schools and black people areas and communities to say there is some excellent people available, but why are we not finding them and giving them the right opportunity?
And that's the thing too. Like, hands up for anyone who understood or was taught about finance at a young age. When I say young, I'll say like, when do people kind of get into knowing about money?
When they need to make it.
Yeah, absolutely. When they become passionate about
money
paying
is,
bills.
well, you know, even when you're young, like when you want to sweep, exactly, pocket money. Like, did anyone kind of understand finance at that age? One person? Anyone else? Two? Three-ish? You know, four? And in a massive group of all these people, that shows that there's already like this gap. And what is the importance of understanding money at a young age? Because I know for me, I learned that, like, I didn't learn. Let me be honest, I didn't. But when I was 16, my mum did give me, like, you know, you get your card. So I was a part of a bank, but I didn't know what I was doing. Let me be real. I didn't even put my money in the bank because I was like, what's this? There was no education around it. So although I knew that money buys you things, that's as far as it went. And I knew that I liked things. I liked my sweets. I needed to get sweets. Like, do you know what I mean? I wanted to get clothes. So I was like, I have to make money, but I didn't know what money actually meant. Absolutely. And I think I still struggle with that sometimes now, because I'm a bit frivolous, not gonna lie. And I feel like sometimes when I think about the concept of money, I'm just like, well, it'll always come, will it? Now the cost of living is hitting me and I'm looking at my gas bill, I'm like, you know, the days are getting a bit longer when they used to feel a bit shorter. So yeah, in terms of learning about it at a young age, how important do you think it is? How important do you think it is?
It's so important to understand. And I think, you know, I petition even in schools in London where I'm from, like, you know, just in my daughter's school, I say, why are we not talking about financial literacy at an early age, right? It's good that you can differentiate what money and coins look like. But as you move into secondary school and you begin to ask questions about how do I manage this, or what does this mean, or what does a bank account mean, what do ratios mean, these different things, and how do I apply that to practical way of living, right? Not just understanding money, but really knowing the practical ways of what money does and how it, you know, because, you know, you're growing up and you see your parents, and sometimes when you go to your bed and you hear your parents are chatting about, boy, I don't know, I'm going to pay the light bill tomorrow, you know? Right? You're just going to bed and you're waking up and the lights are turning on. But there's actual real value in understanding, right? This is what is happening. And as it comes closer to me to start working, how do I manage the little money that I'm now getting from the little
And do you know what? I think that the sad thing about it is that for me, my mum sat me down and it showed me bills. She showed me bills and she was like to me, this is how much this costs. But all that told me was, you need to make more money then. Like, it still didn't really, I didn't grasp that, you know, you could...
How to make the money.
Do you see what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
I didn't grasp that it's such a difficult thing, because when you think about, okay, well, you've been told, but it's not enough. It's the education around what you've been told. So for the both of you, especially for you, because Natalie, you work in a space where you coach people about money. Do you get young people coming to you? Is that something that happens? And how important do you think that is?
Yeah, most of my clients are quite young. And I think sometimes, although it's the education, we love to blame as a community, right? And yes, we can blame that, you know, certain institutions didn't teach us about money, but I think as families, we still need to teach our own kids about money as well, because it's a duty of care. So with my clients, what I tell them is that most of the time their relationship with money will come from their money mindset, which comes from their childhood. So depending on what you saw growing up about money, it's going to have a strong correlation to how you treat it now as an adult. And I think sometimes that's missed. We talk about, how should I save? How should I buy property? How should I invest? But we don't look at the root to where it came from, because I can teach you how to invest and how to save, but if you haven't worked on your money mindset,
It's your
Literally,
attitude
we're just
towards
going
it, right?
Yeah, so I think it comes from the teaching from the family. We have to sit down and actually talk to our kids how to handle money. I was taught how to save growing up, but it turned me into a hoarder, and that's a whole other story. So I struggled with spending money,
Yeah.
so that was a whole other kettle of
I'm
fish.
opposite.
Yeah. But I think we just have to have those conversations with our children if we have them. It's like how to handle money, you know, ration it out,
Yeah.
save some of it, invest some of
Yeah.
it. I think it's really important. It starts at home.
And you know what's so interesting? Because people do have that natural kind of composition towards how you look at money, to what you said. And it's often from your parents or your upbringing where you're taught how to use it. Because the thing is, everything had to be paid on time. Don't be in debt. And as long as those things are done, spend, save some, spend, save some. And that's as far as it goes, really. But it's your attitude towards it too. And everybody's different. My brother don't give me £1 for nothing. For nothing. He counts his money and he puts it away. Save, save, save. That's him. And obviously me, I'm like, I'll give the last £1. Like, that's how I am. Do you know what I mean? And I think, but then you have to kind of understand where it benefits you and where it doesn't. So I think the money coaching space is just excellent because I guess that's exactly your work. And for what you're doing at the moment, Davies, especially when we come to like people that want to be entrepreneurs. And a lot of the issues why people don't go into entrepreneurship is because a lot of us get our safety from working a 9 to 5 or having that consistent money coming in. Do you see apprehension around that space?
Yeah, definitely. There's apprehension around that. And I'm going to come back to touch on the original questions you asked because I think that there's still some unresolved subject matters. I mean, you've asked a question specific to young people, but I would dare say that there's still probably some of us even in this room that we're not so personally convinced that we've got a mastery of our money. Right. And so I'm going to touch on the details of that because it's an area that I'm very keen about. But generally, first of all, to your question, is there apprehension around starting businesses? Yes, but it's lower today than it used to be.
Okay.
Because, you know, and that is just as a result of general macroeconomic shifts, not necessarily because of any other thing. You know, rewind back to 5 years ago, 7 years ago, that we still had the culture of, you know, my career is king. People were still welded a lot to their careers and stuff. But what has happened over the last 5 years with technology and COVID as well is people now understand truly that their opportunities are boundless and you literally can acquire new skills and go into any industry that you want at any point.
Yeah.
Right. And so what that has done is it has changed people's attitude to longevity of career in one space. So people are now trying out new things. Today, you don't even have to, you know, leave your job in order to try to start a business. There are people that are making like, loads of money just promoting stuff on TikTok by creating content in their homes and, you know, generating revenue. So it's much better today than it used to be. But back to the subject matter of understanding money. Again, I don't like to assume. The first thing I want to talk about is what you mentioned earlier about we making excuses. Am I free to talk freely? Yeah, we talked earlier about, not enough role models. But one of the things I like to say here, and I'll give an example of somebody that we all know that is doing it, is even when it's not going to change overnight, we're going to do our best to keep, you know, creating representation at the top levels. But even when we don't have representation, you can learn from anybody.
I want to beef you.
Yeah, please beef me. Diddy, who some of us may know, Puff Daddy, Diddy, whatever, his mentor is Ray Dalio. How many of us know who Ray Dalio is? Ray Dalio is to invest in what Steve Jobs was to computers, right? You can go do some research. Ray Dalio runs Bridgewater, which is one of the biggest hedge funds in the world. They control hundreds of billions of dollars. That is Diddy's personal mentor. He sits with him to learn. And if you go on Google or YouTube and you type in Diddy and Ray Dalio, you're going to see where they're sitting down together. Yes, not everybody will be welcoming to your advances, but there are people there that are looking to learn. So that's number 1 point. Number 2 point around the conversation around money. How is money made? Just so we don't gloss over it. It's a sequence, right? You start with skills. With skills, you can provide value. When you use your skills to provide value, you can trade your value for money and income, right? So you offer out your value, you get an income. From the income that you get, and the reason why I'm explaining this is some of us, how many of us have saved before? I presume every one of us have saved. Yeah. But how many of us have ever had the thought that I don't have enough saved to invest? right? It happens to us all the time. But the thinking is, you exchange your value for money, for income. From your income goes in 3 ways. There are 3 things you should do with your income. There's paying the regular bills, there is the saving for rainy days, and then there is the saving for investment. What we all do is save for rainy days. So pile up savings, and then something comes up, and you just go to the saving, take it out, expend it, you're back to zero, and then you just keep going through that circle, right? So you can put a portion of your income into savings for that, but there is a portion of your income you don't touch. The idea for that second saving is so that it accumulates and grows up enough to be sizable enough to put into investments that are worthwhile. Now, when you're able to get to that point where you're creating savings that's going to investment, then that is your money making more money. Now, the more you can continue that cycle so that your money is making, the point where you get to where your investments is making enough money that is equivalent to your own bills, then you're getting into the realms of financial freedom. And then it just goes on and on that way. But the reason why I've, listed it out is because we can sit here all day and talk about savings and investment and investment. If you're not making the money in the first instance, there's not enough to save. So if you trace that equation back to the beginning, what does it tell us? We want to make more money, find more ways to add value. It is incumbent on you to upskill yourself, to be the very best at what you do, to learn about new industries. Don't always be stuck to the space you've always known. There's so many things opening up in the world right now. Artificial intelligence is blowing up. Everybody is still green at it. The second boss is still available. The first boss has left. The second boss for artificial intelligence millionaires is still very much available. Learn new stuff, add new value. The more value you add, the more money you can make, and then you can go through that equation.
Thank you. And I'm sure that I'm going back to Mahari, because I think that if we say this because I think that there's an understanding around culturally how we may do things, right? And your whole thing, saving, that's what people do. You save for a rainy day, the rainy day comes, you spend that money, you keep going and you keep going. And what you said about value, and then also from that value that translates into skill, the issue is I work in a space where I interview people all day, every day. I've done that for 10 years, right? And I'll tell you the trends that I see within our community, and I'll be 100% real. Do you know what? I'm going to say it for all the communities. So when I interviewed white boys, the first thing they'll ask me, literally, the first 2-3 minutes, they'll ask me, how much is this? Like, what am I getting paid? First 3 questions, what am I getting paid? That's number 1. So that signals to me that they understand what their value is and what they're doing here. Because not only am I they're getting a job out of it, but they're going to get something out of it.
Absolutely.
First 3 questions, like all the time. Any white boy, there were boys at that age, or young men, they would ask, what's the salary for this? Even if it's been advertised, they want you to say it. That's number 1, okay. White women or younger white girls, they would ask it first 5 questions. I'd be like, what's the salary or what's the package? They would ask. If the white boy wasn't happy with it, he would push. Simple as. In the interview, by the way, sir, I haven't even finished interviewing you yet. You don't even know you're good for the role, but he's pushing, okay. The young white girl, she wouldn't push, but she would ask. The young black boy, he would ask, guess. I want you guys to guess.
At the end.
When is he going to ask? What about the salary?
At the end of the interview.
When will you ask about the salary? When you first started in your career?
When I first started.
You might ask a bit earlier though.
Yeah,
I think you might ask it a bit first.
I'm different.
But generally it would be at the end. Or they would send it via email. Ask me if black girls asked.
Wow. Not at all.
At all.
Wow.
3 times in 10 years.
Wow.
3 times in 10 years. And even then, it was at the very end, and it was a very sheeply, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
very like, oh, by the way, right? So when we talk about knowing our value and making skill, what we have to think about is our mindset before even that. Because yes, those steps are there, but culturally there's a mindset there. My mum said to me when I used to negotiate and push for more money, she said, you better hope they're gonna leave you. You're going to end up with a job the amount that you're pushing. Because for her, you take what you're given and you're lucky you're working. That's the generation, and that's what we're coming from, right? So although we know that we add value, because a lot of black people, especially like the old generation, they've held down their job for 20 years. They've held down a job for 15 years. So they add value. They can do the job. We can work with some of the most hardworking people. But I think before we understand what our value is, it's our mindset.
Absolutely.
And I think it's interesting because as black people, we're always kind of taught that we should be so lucky. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
you know, you're grateful.
Yeah.
We're grateful. We're so thankful to have a job, right? And I think it's also because, again, we can trace this way back. There's a scarcity there, and obviously poverty and all these things, right? And again, as you said, first generation. Your mum picking up from where she is and then coming to this country and really trying to like work really hard and provide a roof over the head and paying the bills. So I think that in order for us to get there, we have to change this. And I want to ask you specifically, how did you change that? Because I guess you started from A and then you got to director level. So there had to be a shift in mindset.
Yeah, I think for me, there's a willingness and wanting to succeed, right? And there's me watching my parents, right? Just kind of looking, and they were my first example, right? I'm seeing these people every single day and understanding what my mum's trying to do, right? But I think there is a mindset shift that you have to get into, that you have to know the value of who you are as a person and as an individual. So when I step into this workplace, I make my organization look good. They don't make me look good.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Yeah. They rely on me to attract top black talent.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Facts, right? Why would a black person want to work here if there aren't other black people working here? Right? Well, I've gone from the mentality of having these types of conversations where people are saying, you know what, you should be lucky to me.
Lucky to have you.
Yeah.
You're joking.
Yeah.
But I don't mean it in an arrogant way. Yeah. I kind of gone through all these years of schooling, all these types of conversations to develop myself and be a brilliant individual, to then be worrying if I'm asking if that's enough that you should be paying me when I come into an interview.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
You've asked me to come for an interview, right? And I'm interviewing and showing you the best version of myself.
Right.
So for me, there wasn't really a shift, but because my parents taught me that you are absolutely worthy of sitting at any table that you decide to sit down at, right? So I'm trying to transfer this insight that I have, not just to my family members, but to everybody in this room, right? We have self-doubt, and people sometimes suffer from imposter syndrome, right? That's an actual real thing where people question you and you think, am I
supposed to be here?
Of course you are, right? You know, I work off 3 principles in the sense of when you engage people, you excite people, and you execute, right? I'm here to engage you from what I'm saying, and through this conversation breeds excitement. Right? But the call to action is, what are you going to then use what you've learned today to execute what you've heard?
Exactly. Thank you so much. Absolutely. And I just wanted to touch, and that's the thing, it's not taken from what you said, Davies, because what you said was very powerful. I just think that there's a mindset before that precedes exactly what you're saying, to put that in place.
Absolutely.
Do you find that to be the case, Natalie? Because I think, again, you work with people day to day, you see how they think and their attitudes towards it. Do you see similarities between what I'm saying to the people that you work with?
No, definitely, because mindset's at the core of what I deal with, and I find that, again, it's being told or taught you need to work 10 times harder. You need to be just satisfied wherever you are. But once you've become really good at what you're good at, and you know you're skillful and you know that you add value, then you should be able to walk into a room knowing what you can offer someone. And if they're not willing to give you what you want, don't be scared to walk away. I've had to walk away myself when it just wasn't the right opportunity. And it's interesting you said they'll wait until the end of the interview to ask.
Email.
Me, if I don't see a salary, I'm like, okay, let's talk money, let's negotiate. And that took a while for me to get there, and that took me a lot of years building my own mindset. But now when I walk into a room, whether it's finance, whether it's fashion, because I've got a long, extensive career in fashion, I know the job is mine, I know I'm more than worthy of doing it, how much are you going to pay me? You know what I mean? And sometimes I go, oh, Nat, you're really masculine, you know, when it comes to business, such. But I just know what I want.
Exactly.
And if you're going to put the masculine hat on me, I'll wear it, it's fine. I just feel like we need to walk with a bit more armour, that we've got this, we've been doing this, and we're more than worthy for the position.
Exactly. And I think also, to what you're saying as well, especially as a woman, right? And it's funny because when you're kind of like aggressive, and I hate that word, but, you know, aggressive in business, or when it comes to negotiation, specifically for black women, it's just not done. And it's nowhere near done enough. And even when it is done, I'm like, I actually want to kick them under the table and be like, do you know how much this role is for? Like, how far we can go? So I think there's an education piece there as well around negotiation, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail about that. But we'll go on to the next question, and I think we've kind of touched on this already, but the challenges faced as a black person on the journey to financial stability, that's kind of the things we're talking about. We're talking about mindset. We're talking about understanding that if you have value, that is where you can generate more income. Especially when it comes to like working and pay gaps, you know, there's gender pay gaps, there's the black attainment gap. So can you speak to kind of your own personal struggles with that part of it, or what you've seen?
I think for me, when I started out, because I was in a completely new, different field, I didn't know how to charge.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, they want me to do X, Y, Z. I don't know how much to charge. And I'm kind of nosy. So I just started DMing people that I knew were in my space and who were black. And I was like, X has contacted me about this. They want me to do that. How much should I charge them? How much do you charge? And we had a conversation.
Right.
And I feel like when you're willing just to be open and vulnerable with other people, they will tell you how to do it.
Yes.
And I'm not a believer of just going out there and throwing out numbers in the sky. I want to know, because if you don't do that, you're going to lowball yourself. And then you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm doing all this work, I don't want to do it. So me personally, I talk to everyone.
Yes.
If you're in my field and you're black, I want to talk to you because I'm still fairly new. I do more of that, 100%.
Yep.
That's what I do.
Yeah, so talking to people
Yeah.
in your field, having honest conversations, asking what people charge. And then what about you? Because obviously working for an organisation, you know, some organisations, not talking about Lloyds, but some organisations can be a bit, what's the word? Like, they don't want to tell you how much they're going to pay for certain roles. You know, you kind of go in there and then there's a negotiation that happens there. And some of them don't tell you, okay, this role was for 30,000 or 50,000. They don't always say. So in terms of like how to gauge it, how were you able to kind of gauge it maybe at the beginning of your career?
Well, I think I paid close attention to the numbers,
Okay.
right? You know, you're coming into an organisation and you know the general ballpark of what the figure
Yes.
is worth, right? And I think internally it's different to externally. If you're working for an organisation already, the internal pay scale is visible.
Yeah.
You can see it, you can understand it, you can click on it, you can link into it. If you were acquired externally, you should be able to command a wage because they've recruited externally.
Yes.
So you should be knowing what is the salary paying,
Yes.
right? You ask those questions, and it's okay to ask those questions because
You're there.
you're in a position, you're
Yeah.
there, you're interviewing, you've got to that stage.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I paid close attention to the numbers, and it was just, it's really funny because even up until today, I saw my pay slip, and I thought, nah, am I on the right tax code?
The amount of money you
just
get taken
because,
about, yeah.
just because I wanted to know,
Yeah.
right? And I know I'm on the right tax code, but I'm just thinking, it's the end of the tax year. Do the government owe me anything?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So it's about paying close attention to the numbers and don't feel that you're not worthy of asking those questions.
Yes.
You've been working all day, sometimes
Yeah.
9, 10, 12 hours a day, but you can't ask about your pay. I find it crazy that you can't ask those questions.
And I think within our communities, do you see a willingness, or even in your own personal lives, do you see a willingness for like our parents, for example, kind of questioning that? Or kind of pushing boundaries when it comes to, okay, I want to get paid more, or why am I not getting a salary review? Do you have those? Have you ever had those conversations, and is that something that you see?
Well, for the most part, again, so I deal with people that are building businesses for the most part. So, but generally, from a cultural standpoint, we don't see enough of that.
Yeah.
Because again, culturally, you know, there's that notion of, you know, longevity. The more you're in one, and people can be in one job for 10 years and earn exactly the same
Yeah.
thing and not even dare to ask for an increase.
Yeah.
You know, you know, we have all these notions around, you know, in order to make more money, you need to work harder, and hence why we work so hard, but then the money still isn't commensurate at the end of the day. You know, so I think we need to have more of those conversations, both with the older generations and the younger. And I think it's the reason why this platform is very, very powerful. You know, bring in this awareness around the things that we need to be thinking about, the questions we need to be asking, and
Yes.
the conversations we need to be having.
We need to be having these type of conversations for sure. And I think this is kind of going off script, but I'm really interested in a way around the understanding of finance, right? When it comes to how has understanding finance helped you as an individual? How has understanding finance helped you in your life as an individual? And let's get personal. How has it helped you? Like, really helped you?
I think just being able to, so to bring it really personal.
Let's go there.
Right? I remember times when I'm asking for things growing up and I'm not getting them because my mum couldn't afford
Yeah.
them. Right? I didn't know no aspect about money, but there were things that I saw my friends getting, Nintendos and stuff like that, and I used to look forward to going to their house just to play computer. Because I knew if I asked my mum, she couldn't afford it,
Yeah.
right? So fast forward now, when my daughters ask me for something, I don't buy them everything,
Yeah.
but the peace of mind is if I wanted to, I could buy it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the peace of mind that I get, and that's why it's personal to me.
Yeah.
And that's because I've managed my money well to understand that I'm not flush with cash, but I'm comfortable to a point where if my daughters ask me for something, right?
You can.
That is normally, would considered expensive, right? If I wanted to, I could buy it for them. but I'm teaching them and them things, and they will get, you know, on their birthdays and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's how personal I keep it.
That's amazing.
So that's how just knowing that if my family and my loved ones and my friends ask me for something, I could make it happen.
That's amazing. And for you now?
I think for me, it's helping out my friends, especially the ones who've become new parents. So again, growing up, all I was taught to do was save. I wasn't taught to invest, didn't know what it was. But I was a nosy child, and I was really fascinated with fast cars and women, particularly driving them. And I would be like, how did they get that? What did they do with their money? And I found out that they invested. So I started investing at 18, made loads of mistakes, but I was so thirsty for the knowledge of wanting to build wealth. So with my friends now, I thought to myself, okay, a lot of them didn't have bank of mum and dad, so how can I pass on some knowledge to them when they're having their own kids? So now I have these conversations. I say, oh, have you thought about investing for your children? Because a lot of people talk about saving for their kids, and when my child's 18, I would have saved X amount if I save £100, £50 a month. And I said, that's all well and good, but you know, inflation is going up, and you know, your money's not really doing much. Have you thought about investing? So because I'm quite knowledgeable in this area, I'm at such a peace that I can help them to open up accounts for their children, and then every birthday have their account details, drop money in.
Yeah.
I don't do gifts, I don't do presents. I just give them money, knowing that when they get to a certain age, they're able to benefit from that.
Definitely.
And I think that's special, because then they will now that I've told them that, they will now go on and do that to others as well. So
That's
it's passing
amazing.
on the baton. So that's really dear to my heart.
That's amazing. And for you?
I think for me, personally, the biggest thing that understanding money has done for me is literally give me freedom to be myself.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I don't have all the money in the world, but I'm not pressured by the
You
need
sure,
to get more
Davies?
money. Yeah, but at the same time, I'm not pressured at all to want more money.
Yeah.
The reason is, you know, I'm content, I'm happy where I'm at, and I know that if I ever need more money at any point, I know how to get it.
Yeah.
Right? And so that allows me to do the things that...
Because you understand it. Sorry, because you
Exactly.
understand it.
Exactly. So just that notion alone. So I don't ever do anything that I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
Right? I don't take a job or project or role that I don't think I'm going to have fun doing
Yeah.
this. You know, so that for me on a personal level, and considering, you know, where I've come from, you know, I remember when I started my business, very first year as an entrepreneur, and literally there's a memory that is etched in my head. So I was the first graduate in my family, right? First to finish uni, you know, and everybody was like, oh, really smart guy, go get a job. They were literally offering me jobs, and I said, no, I want to build businesses.
Yeah.
And this is 6 months into the journey of building businesses, I've not even made a dime.
Yeah.
And one day I woke up in the morning, going to the bathroom, was going to brush my teeth, and there was no toothpaste. And I couldn't bring myself to go tell my mom that there was no toothpaste. I would never forget that morning, because literally that was the first time I ever doubted this whole entrepreneurship journey that I got on, because I thought to myself, if I was working somewhere, I would have money. I would be able to help out in the home, you know. But so considering sort of like some of the things that I went through as a child, and, you know, that lack of access to just be able to do some of the things that we've talked about on this panel, to where I am now, is just that freedom and that ability to breathe. And also from a, you know, professional standpoint, on a day-to-day basis, I'm working with business owners to help them understand money, to help them understand how to make more of it, how to make their business more effective. And just the satisfaction, the sheer joy of seeing somebody lighting up when they see where the leakages were in their business, where they see how they could, you know, make more money or get some investment. It literally is very fulfilling.
And I think it's really powerful, actually, because on this panel we have people that have gone about making money, and attitudes to money. It's very different, right? So you've worked in kind of the same organisation for a substantial amount of time. You're self-employed, and you're a money coach, and obviously you're an entrepreneur. So you look at businesses. And for someone like me, I was very much so single mum. She had me really young, and she told, because what she didn't have was education, right? So for her, she was kind of limited for the roles that she could do. So she drilled into us, be educated, because that's something that you can go and do, and no one can take that from you.
Absolutely.
So that's what I did. I became educated. So I went to university, and then I went into my master's. And then after I couldn't afford to do my master's, so I got a scholarship to do my master's, and I moved to Scotland. And let me tell you something here. That place is cold. Like, the people are lovely. That place, I think I've got seasonal depression because it is cold. I could not believe it. I would walk out sometimes and be like, this is not even normal. Like, it was it was a year in Scotland. I was 26 years old. I was working with Scottish girls in Zara because I couldn't afford my where I was living, my halls, because it was a scholarship, and like they were just talking to me anyhow. And I'm 26 and they're 18. So I'm just like, oh my goodness, like it was horrible. But I think what I learned from that is like, I was someone who didn't like know a lot, but I knew what kind of life I wanted. I didn't want to, like, it was just the simple things, right? Like I wanted to go on holiday 3 times a year or 2 times a year. Like I can remember my mum saving for holiday. Like there's things that you knew were happening and there was a plan to make that thing happen. And that plan was like, if we're never going on holiday in 3 years, we're going on holiday in 3 years. We're saving from this year. And it was things like that I was like, do you know what? I don't want to think about, do you know what I mean? I just want to book. Like, I can't be dealing with all of this. Like, and it's not my personality type. I just want to like, I want to go on holiday. So it was just, I worked backwards. I was like, okay, what kind of life do you want? I want to go on holidays. I want to be able to afford a house, and I don't want to rely on no man, you know, because that's what I was taught. So that's what I did. So I worked backwards, but I worked backwards in a way that for me seemed very realistic, right? Go and get an education, try to work really hard and do it that way, right? But I think what might be hitting us all right now is cost of living. Because you know you can't educate yourself out of that one, because everything is increasing, and our communities are suffering more. Than most communities, specifically like in underdeveloped areas and so on, right? So what advice would you give to people that are kind of like going through this right now, and how can they better upskill themselves, maybe in the time of cost of living? And why do you think it may be affecting our communities more? And this is for everyone. Everyone's looking at the money coach. Everyone's looking at the money coach.
Well, again, the why goes back to the same conversation we've been having all day. It's the mindset. It's the understanding of money. Because, the understanding around money is not just how to make it, but it's how to keep it. Because it's not the money that you make that helps you become wealthy. It's the money that you keep.
Yeah.
So it's not how much comes in, it's how much stays in. Yeah. So, and when you think about the plethora of things that we just culturally, naturally spend money on, it takes money away really quickly. But I mean, if you were before inflation and all the rest happened, if you were living your normal lifestyle, you had a little bit more, to set aside. But now with prices of everything going up, if you maintain that same level of lifestyle, but your income is not increasing, then you literally have nothing else left over. So, the relationship between us and money, it has to go beyond just, how we make it, but also how we keep it. There's some subscriptions that we have that we don't use, but I'm not even bothered to go cancel.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go deeper than that, right? But literally, so that's the first bit. So it goes to that, mindset bit in terms of why it has affected our communities more. But again, in terms of how do we respond to the challenges, it goes back to the core fundamental. Number one, you've taken the right first step by being here, taking that effort to want to learn more about the subject matter. And then number two is take today as just the starting of the engine to go do more research and do a bit more learning around how do I become better with money. And then the more you can do in terms of adding value to yourself so that you can, create more value to generate more revenue, the more you can. And I'm going to add this last one to it because I think that this is not talked about enough. The people that would give you money for your value are not just in your community, your region, or the UK.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They are everywhere in the world, and there's literally nothing stopping you. There's literally nothing stopping you from selling to somebody in the US, in the UAE, in Africa, in South America. Absolutely nothing stopping you. So go out there. There's money to be made. Please say to the person next to you, there's money to be made.
There's money to be made.
I love that.
And what ways can we empower ourselves as a community, given these hard times? The house is cold, my heating comes on for 2 hours, then it's off again. And I'm in my blanket, and my camera can't come on at work because the house is cold.
Listen,
and I'm not putting it on because the bill's too high.
For me, I got loads of practical ways that I kind of tend to do. So you see how in here, Will? I come into we have flexible working, but I come into the office, so I don't have to turn on the heating at home. That's one. But in terms of just actual practical things, right? There's things that you can do, and great advice, Davies, you know what I'm saying, about making money. But if you're looking at keeping the money that you have, sometimes it's okay just to take a step back and look at your actual finances, right? I would write down every single thing that you spend from the first of the month to the end of the month on a sheet of paper, and I guarantee you'll be able to save yourself £300 or £400 when you look at the stuff that you're actually spending money on, and you realise I don't even need that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? That's the first thing you should do. I did that.
Yeah.
Right? Probably about 2 years ago. And I thought there were so many things.
Yeah.
I thought I've just saved myself £450 just like that.
Change in the supermarket, man. That
I'm telling
hurts
you.
though, but I have to do it.
Yeah,
Change
you know
in
what I
the
mean?
supermarket.
When they shop at Waitrose, I'm at Lidl. I'm good.
I had to make adjustments.
But practical, like literally, just take a moment, and we can be, as a black culture, very protective of our finances.
Yeah.
You know, if they don't want people, but you don't have to tell people your business. Take a moment, go for your bank statement, and look at what you're actually spending, and just pull back on some certain things. People feel that like, because you're tightening your belt straps, it's like a bit of a
shameful thing almost.
It's not,
yeah, that's
it's
how people
not,
feel about it.
because
Yeah.
no one else is going to pay your bills, right?
Yeah.
So take a step back and just kind of look at that. And secondly, it's okay to stay in your lane.
Yeah.
That you don't have to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Social media is a thing where you go on and you see certain things and you think, I need to have that.
Yeah.
I need that. You don't need it.
You don't need it.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, and I'm not, social media is a fantastic tool, right? But it's easily, you can become in a trap where you want to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
I chose a lane and I stay in it.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Because I understand I live within my means.
Yeah.
Sometimes our culture, we love to live outside of our means in order to impress people that don't even know us.
Yeah.
Right? You're suffering for beauty. You're
Cost of living.
You're living for likes. Right? Them likes.
And like those big
Can't pay
bills.
the government, you know. Council tax can't pay.
Likes don't pay the bills.
But
Right.
another thing, we're all going through the cost of living crisis. It's not just some people, everyone's going through it. So that should give you some strange comfort. So
Yeah.
my favourite word is no. I'm very much a yes person. I've always been a yes person, a bit of an empath. But of recent, I've just learnt to say no. And because I now live in Birmingham, I don't live in London anymore, it's even easier.
Oh.
It's easier.
When I moved to Reading, I could just be like, I'm living in Reading.
I'm just like, if
It's
you
2
want
hours
to
away.
come to Birmingham, I'm not coming to London. Or just saying no. I think there's power in it. We don't say it enough.
Yeah.
And what you said about the bills and stuff, I tell my clients to do it all the time. I say print out your statements. The last 3 months of your bank statement, print it out, because you're becoming a cashless society. We're tapping away and we're not actually knowing how much we're spending. So I always say print out your statement and get 2 highlighter pens. One for your subscriptions that come out every single month, the fixed ones, and then another highlighter for the stuff that you've just been spending. And then that will give you a shocker. That will shock you. And another thing I say, separate your finances. A lot of people don't do this. They have one bank account and they have one savings account. We need to change that, because when you open up, say, your banking app and you've got your main bank account in there and you've got your savings, it's temptation in my eyes, because I can see my savings.
And I just push it over.
No. Change that. You need separate bank accounts, separate savings accounts. You have one account that you don't even touch, and you let your emergency fund build up in there, your sinking funds, all that good stuff, and then you have another one which is just for your bills. That bank card don't come out the house, it stays, because that's just for where the bills come out, and they have another card just for spending. So I feel like if we put some structure into our finances, you know, you'll be all right.
That's really good advice.
Just to follow up on that, there's a friend of mine who, so he's done that structure, and the account where his savings goes, it doesn't have an app for it, it doesn't have a checkbook for it, it doesn't have a debit card for it. Right, just locks the money away. But again, and some of these things that Natalie just talked about, I think everybody needs to do it. Print out your bank statement, highlight those things that she's talked about. You will be shocked, I can guarantee you.
I know, I was shocked. I was looking at my app, and then I saw £5 for Hulu, and that's Housewives that my mum uses. So I had to have a word with her. Cost of living. £5 every month, that adds up.
Absolutely.
So you'd be surprised. You'd be very surprised.
And just be smarter with your subscriptions.
Yeah.
If you're in a household and all of you have got Spotify, why have all of you got individual Spotify accounts where you can have a family account? Just little things like this. I know Netflix are trying to crack down a little bit on sharing passwords. I mean, I've been sharing mine and it's fine. So, I mean, just be a little bit smart, a little bit cheeky with it, and as far as you can, for as long as you can.
Thank you. That was really good advice on unlearning bad habits, which was actually one of the things that we wanted to pick up on. And I think we've only got 2 questions left. So I spoke about the scholarship, right? That I was, that I didn't pay for that, right? So I essentially, I'm just going to be honest here. So when I started my career, I was on London living wage is obviously different, right? but I started on like 23k when I've left university, London living wage, but then I've got, you know, your debt from student finance. And then I did some research and I understood that in my lane, in my field, you can earn like triple basically based off of your masters, because in my specific HR, they're very big on like having a CIPD, being qualified in that sector. So I was like, that's what I need to do, because there will be a glass ceiling. I will have years of experience. But one of the things that can help me is if I have this qualification, without working 10 years, I can fast track my way to make more money based on the qualification. But then I thought, we ain't got no money. I haven't got 10 grand at that time to pay for a master's. What I did is that I was literally on the computer, on Google, scholarships for people who have no money to do their masters. That was my Google search. The Google search that came up was Santander Bank. At that time, Santander Bank was giving out scholarships to underprivileged people who came from disadvantaged backgrounds, but that did well and could study and did well in their degree. That's a lot of people. A lot of people do well on their degree.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? That's a lot of people. So I was like, okay, I'm interested. I applied. I got the scholarship. The turnover was like 5 days after I applied. The application took me 1 day. Took me 1 day, saved me 15 grand. That's how much money it saves me, right?
Absolutely.
No debt, okay? One of the things I asked, because I actually did an interview for it afterwards, and I had this question, because I wondered how many people have decided to do this? Do you know that literally it was so massively unapplied for? It was so massively unapplied from our community. So obviously there's an access thing, like a lot of us don't even know these opportunities exist, so we don't even know to apply. But can you imagine, there's people that want to further educate themselves, they're like, okay, I'm stuck because I can't afford to further educate myself. I obviously had to go to Scotland, that was a caveat, and a lot of people wouldn't do that. Yeah. What you said, Davies, your opportunities are not always comfortable. Absolutely. They're not always in South London, which is where I stayed up to that point. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you have to kind of make yourself uncomfortable to progress in life. And it was a very difficult thing for me, and I hated it. I did. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was cold. I can feel the cold now in my spirit, think about it. The place was so cold, but I made it. You made it. And then I was able to the earnings flew after that. They would know, it was the first thing on my LinkedIn, CIPD, qualified, as in it was night and day. The people were coming to me, headhunting me for a role, because at that time, again, we weren't applying. People that looked like us didn't have that qualification, in a massive way. And a lot of black people weren't even in that field. Yeah. And what you're seeing now is when we're underrepresented in a field, they actually want us.
Absolutely.
That's one of the good things that's happening in the change. And I think we owe a lot of that to the older generation who kind of worked really hard and kind of laid the ground so that we can kind of walk in that. But at the same time, we have to walk in it. And the opportunities are for everyone. Absolutely. And you're not limited. So I did want to say that there are ways to make more money. And although they might seem like they're so far and far-fetched, they're not always that far-fetched. And I think for all of you, when you think about money and how much money that you wanted to make, did you think about that with a number, or did you think about that as a path or a journey? And what did your journeys look like? Especially for you, Natalie, I'll have this question for you because, again, you're a money coach. Do you see that happening now? People empowering themselves through business, or I'll go to David for fundraising and investment, but in terms of progressing themselves and even becoming more financially independent through investing, have you seen people's paths kind of tend towards this is how much money I want to make, or this is the life that I want? I
can actually talk about that from two parts. So my own path, because I didn't really have a number on it. I just knew I was going to go in high. Yeah. And I've always been taught to go in high, because I'm always going to try come in low anyway. So that's something that I've been doing, and I've been really good at negotiating what I want. And if they can't offer me the money that I want, then there has to be something else that's beneficial for both of us. Yeah. So I do a lot of that, whether it's more coverage or whether they've got me to do something else. So I use it to my advantage, because sometimes it's not always about the money, and especially when I was starting out, it wasn't about the money. It was about the experience, getting my name everywhere, getting my face everywhere till people are sick of me. So I kept doing that. As for my clients, I have a lot of them that struggle with making more money and hitting that glass ceiling. So with that, there's a lot of mind work. I won't go into it too much, but there's a lot of cognitive behaviors that we need to go through, and it's about that self-worth, because a lot of people don't like talking about money, because when they say how much, no one likes to talk about how much they earn, whether it's a lot or whether it's a little, because they feel like they're going to be judged, that there's a self-worth attachment to it. And what I try to tell my clients is that what you earn has nothing to do with your self-worth. You are you, your values, like what you're saying, Davies, your values, what you bring, that's your self-worth, not someone putting a number on it. So I feel like once we divide that and know that your self-worth is not what you earn, then we can start moving forward.
Yes.
And then once you're putting in the work in your self-worth, you can put any number on that you want.
Yeah.
And someone's going to pay it, because if you believe in yourself,
Absolutely.
they're going to believe in
Yeah.
you. So it's just like the mindset, knowing that you're the SHITH and no one can tell you different.
Yeah.
So you got to believe in your aura and what you
Fantastic.
do.
I love that. And for you, Davies, especially like being in this sector where you're kind of like fundraising, would you give anyone any tips towards getting into a space where they can be more financially independent? And I know that you can't really give investment advice for the both of you. I know you can't really. I would like you to do that, but I know you can't. So in terms of like investing in yourself and fundraising, maybe, are there anything that you would suggest that people can do so that the money doesn't come out of their own account? 'Cause if we ask people in this audience, I'm sure a lot of people here have business ideas, things that they know they would love to do, but then they think, I can't separate from the security of my job, right? So how can people do that with like through fundraising or maybe through getting investment? Is that possible?
I mean, I'll jump on the ones that I could talk about,
Okay.
very openly. So, I've always had a personal mantra that you don't need money to start a business, but you need money to grow a business. So if anyone is in the room and you're in that space where you've got some great ideas, but you want to get started, but there's that security question.
Yeah.
I always say to people, don't jump ship don't drop off a cliff, right? So don't jump off your job and you're expecting that from month one you're going to make money to take care of yourself. You're not.
Yeah.
I've started 5 different businesses in my life, and none of them, made money from like the jump.
Yeah.
So don't make that jump. You could actually run it concurrently. The first job of an entrepreneur, the first thing you must understand as an entrepreneur is that you're going to work harder than you work in your 9 to 5. 9 to 5 is what? 8 hours. Entrepreneurs work 24 hours, right? So the first test actually is to see if you can manage something else in addition to your 9 to 5. So that's the first bit. Now, if you started doing that, you put in the idea together, now you need to implement some of the things. There are quite a number of grants that are scattered around that is all purposed for helping people get started. Most grants that are available, if it's called a grant, it's made for you to start. Once you've started and you're getting some traction and you're achieving some levels of success, then you can raise capital, more investment, because then even people that are looking to invest in your business can see that, there's a model here that works. This business will make money. But in order to get started, there are loads of grants, that are, and some of them are expiring really soon. A new set of, interestingly, it's a very interesting time in the funding landscape, particularly in the region, because a lot of the grants and programs that used to exist up until now were funded by European Union money. That is running out in June for the most part. If anything is still left over. And so the UK government is putting in a new set of funding, which is now just filtering through. So actually over the last 2 weeks, some new programs and funding and grants have been announced. There are a few of them that are legacy grants that are, the money's still there, but they're running out really soon. I'll give a typical example. There's one called, if you type into Google Innovation Networks CUE, it's or Innovation Networks Coventry University. It's a grant that gives you 44% of whatever it is that you want to spend on that startup process. So whether it is research or, prototyping or doing some trademark registration or whatever it is that you need from a cost perspective, they'll say, what is the cost? The cost is £10,000. You go spend the money, send us the invoices that you've sent the money, we'll give you 4,400. And there are lots of different pockets of money like that. And I think, again, it goes back to the mindset conversation. There is money available that is grant, that is free money. But sometimes we don't even feel like we deserve to apply for those things. Like what you said earlier about the scholarships being there, but people are just not applying for it. And, one of the things I learned very early in those my years of reading about entrepreneurship is don't ever stop at, I cannot. Your question should be, how can I? Rephrase it. Because if you ask your brain enough questions, it will supply you with answers. If you ask other people enough questions, you would get answers. So it's not, I can't. It's how can I? If you change that way, you're going to find new opportunities. And I think that, from a business perspective, those are really key things. And I loved some of those things you were sharing in terms of personal. One of the things I learned those very early stages of building a business, particularly around negotiation, is if you start low, right, it's difficult to go high.
Yeah.
If you start high, you can always come low. So don't ever be afraid to start high. Now, that's number one. Number two is many of us, and I see this too many times because I've done it myself as well. We start high, we give a price. The moment at the earliest sign of discomfort from the, customer, we literally give them a discount. Don't do that.
Yeah.
There are many different ways you could do it. So, for example, if you feel that this client truly, can't pay that money, you could say, okay, so in those early stages, what I would do is my price, for example, is £5,000. And then they say, no, Davies, we can only do £2,000, And I say, okay, I'm not going to give you a discount, but so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write you an invoice for £5,000. And then I'm going to give you a discount. So the invoice you will receive is £5,000, but it's showing discount £3,000, and then you eventually pay me £2,000. That was back in the days. Today, what I would do is, okay, £5,000 is the bill. You can only pay £2,000. If I'm convinced that I want to do it, then I will write you an invoice for £5,000. You will pay me the fee of £2,000, and £3,000 is going to be my company sponsoring your event.
Okay. You use them in a different way.
Yeah, literally. And I can tell you, you know what, this is me contributing to the success of your event, so you have to plaster my logo everywhere, for example. Or you have to, but we literally are part sponsors.
Yeah.
And you can literally use that leverage in many different ways, but don't be quick to leave money on the table.
Yeah.
Right? So there's so many things to talk about there, but again, get in touch with Natalie. She's an expert.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much. And I think it's so important. And that's, again, it's like when you know your value, as you said in the beginning, you didn't do that. But then as you work and as you grow and as you learn yourself more. And you know what you know, you're like, hold on a minute, no, like this has to be beneficial for both parties. And I can meet you somewhere, but you have to also meet me somewhere too. Absolutely. So I think that's brilliant. And I'm going to give this last question. I'm going to start with you, actually, Mahari, because this is a good one and I want to read it properly. How do we build together, and we spoke about this, but as a community, and I think specifically like as a black community, and in what ways do you think it's been done successfully? We kind of spoke about this when we were like talking before. In what ways? Because we spoke about a lot of the ways that we can build together successfully, but we've also learned good things from our parents and from our cultures. What are some of the ways that you think we've done it successfully and how can we grow from that?
Yeah, so key word is community, and within community you have the word unity. So we need to unite and knowledge share exactly what we have. Absolutely. You can't be an expert in one field and someone else comes to you for advice and you don't want to share it, right? If you're talking about community and you want to see community wealth, you want to see community expertise, I think we need to get better at sharing the knowledge that we have as individuals. That's why, on my website it says my purpose is to help other people, right? So if you come to me, I'm not asking for a fee because I know how difficult it was for me. And it's more powerful to have 3 or 4 Maharis in the room than me by myself, right? Because now I'm left to influence. I'm not decision making. I'm trying to influence somebody else to make a decision, where I can have 2 or 3 people in the room and it's easier for me to make a decision because I now have the backup in the room, right?
Fantastic.
And an example of how it works, and a great example, she's in this room today. Rebecca Tate is in the room. So this is a perfect example of unity and how it works. So she manages all these things that you see happening within Birmingham, right? She brings it all together. I'm in London. I want to be in my bed, curl up. But I come here to support her and I come here to support Renee.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Because we're trying to stretch this message as far as it can go, right? And the moment that you can tap into that and see the worth, right? I can begin to speak and talk to so many wonderful people like this here today.
Yeah.
And then people resonate with it. So I take back this energy that's in this room and I bring it to London, right? And through not just Lloyds, it was a passion that she had to change where she lived, right? And she saw, right, Mahari, what you're doing in London, I need that in Birmingham. How do we drive that? How do we embed that? How do we make the leaders of Lloyds Banking Group buy into what we're doing? And now it's a flourishing program. Flourishing. We have a space like this.
Thank you so much.
So, and that's it. So I'll hand over to Natalie.
I think I'm going to answer the last part of your question, how we do it well as a community. So I come from a Caribbean background, Jamaican.
Do it. Sorry.
And I think how we've done it really well when it pertains to money is through partners.
Yeah.
So growing up, my parents did it, and then I did it in school. I ran a little partner in school. And now it's almost died out, and that's simply because the banking industry, we have access to banking and stuff like that. But the same thing, how we use that community of coming together, having our money together and being able to give it out, we can still do that. But I feel like sometimes we're scared because, oh, I don't know that person.
Yeah.
They're not from my community, they're not from my area. But I don't know how many people sitting in this room right now know each other. I'm guessing not a lot of you know each other. Yeah. So what does that tell you? We're all here for the same thing, to gather information. So I feel where it pertains to money, because I'm always going to bring it back to money, think about other things that we can do. So peer-to-peer lending, that's something we can do. So if you're unsure and you want to get into it, you start going to events, you start searching. That's what I do, especially being in a new city. I'm always searching to see what's going on in Birmingham with money, because that's a big thing for me. And just seeing what other opportunities are out there for you. Does anyone in here angel invest? Has anyone heard of the term angel investing?
Yeah,
but no one's gotten involved. Okay, so me, I like to angel invest. And when I tell people that, I'm like, what does that mean? How can I get involved? And I'm the first person to let people know how to get involved. I'll put you in through to this person, because it's a way of just building up our money, because my money could be sitting in the bank doing not much. I mean, interest rates are a little bit good right now, but again, eaten up by inflation. Yep. So for me, I like to see a nice return on my money. So just through going through to events like these, talking to people, finding out that, oh, if you want to invest in property, there's another way to do it. Do it. So that's what I'm doing. So I feel like having that knowledge, I'm always keen to share that to anyone who's willing to listen.
That's brilliant.
But a lot of the times we don't want to hear it, because it's like, we're not going to get the money tomorrow. It's like the investments take time. You're not going to get it straight away. So I feel like just talk to people that you trust, you respect, and trust me, they will give you the information if you ask for it.
And David?
Fantastic. Yeah, I think Mahari and Natalie has talked about some of the most important things. The way I'd like to get started on that subject matter is literally to start with this conversation around community, because for the most part, and Natalie talked about that trust factor and working together. For the most part, when we talk about community, we always mentally think about all black people. So that our color becomes a common denominator. But really, community, just like Mahari said, has unity in there. The first bit is being able to, connect to each other, do business with each other to build those relationships and trust. Culturally, one of the things that was a staple in my culture in Nigeria is something called ajo. And essentially the way it works is literally, groups of people that are friends in the community that trust each other are pulling, certain amounts from their pay on a monthly basis together. So on a monthly basis, you must make that contribution. Then that pile of money, someone takes it.
That's the famous partner.
Oh yeah, so literally, so they can take
all
that.
The same.
Yeah, so that's what we call it back in Nigeria. Yeah. So there's that, and there's also that model as well, even with something as basic as grocery shopping. Yeah. So on a monthly basis, we pull resources together to shop in bulk. So we're buying at sort of like early supplier. Sometimes people pull money together to buy straight from the farm. So they're not buying at wholesale price, they're not buying at retail price, but just because, 10 of us, 10 families are shopping together, you're buying a bulk of stuff. It's one trip, it's cheaper at source, and you all can just share all that you bought together. It helps save money as well. So some of those things, but all of those things, it's never going to happen if you don't trust the person you're doing business with, right? So it goes back to that fundamental notion of we need to speak to each other, share knowledge, do business with each other, and the more we do that, the more opportunities open up for us.
That's brilliant. And I think for me, it's vulnerability as well, right? Because that's a big thing. Like people, especially within our community, don't like talking about money. It's shameful. We don't trust each other. All these things. Oh, if this person knows how much money I make, then it's, what did Caribbean say, red eye? I heard that all the time. Like, if you say how much money you make, then someone's going to have red eye, like all this stuff. Like, there's so much around talking about money. And I think for me, one of the things I had, because got friends who, I think having friends that know more than you and not being threatened by it is really important. Because I had a really close friend, he wasn't in finance, but he took a liking to it. He just researched, he understands it very well. He came to my house, I was 20 years old, I can remember this, and I was like, oh, what are you doing? He was on his phone, and he invests in an app, Hargreaves Lansdowne, right? So he has this app where he invests every single month, right? And I was like, oh, what's that? And I had a simple conversation with him. He broke it down to me. I set up my profile then and then. And from that day, I've invested every single month and haven't looked at it. And that's it. Do you know what I mean? And this is for someone who had no idea of what investment was. But it's just through vulnerability and having a want to not be like, oh, what are you... Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, because I don't know about that, I'm not going to ask the question. Or I'm going to think that what you're doing isn't legit. Like because when I told my mum about it, she said, Do you know what I mean? She's like, Do you know what I mean? I said, Mum, let me set up for you to do. And that's her. Do you see what I'm saying? So, but then we went for another approach. My brother got her this thing where, you know, like every £3 it rounds up your money.
And invest it.
And you invest it into something. And that works for her because she's like, okay, that thing there. And then because she sees how much money she makes and it's on it, that works for her. She's not as like, you know, cautious about it. So I think it's also about opening your mind a little bit and understanding that this avenue might not work for you. Do you see what I'm saying? Maybe this avenue won't work for you, or maybe you knowing about it, you can still have apprehension around it, but just being open to know that you don't know everything. And it's okay to also learn. If my mum was her, say it's okay to learn from your kids. Do you know what I mean? It's okay to learn people that are younger than you. It's okay to learn people that are older than you. It's okay, like, wisdom is, everybody knows what they know and everyone doesn't know what they don't know. So I think it's really important to be open. And with that, I want to thank you all for coming. We're going to open for Q&A. Thank you so much. Okay, Ren's going to speak now. Thank you all so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to our panel. Thank you so much. Can we have a round of applause for our amazing panel? Thank you. Like for documentation there.
And also, thank you to Ivy for hosting so brilliantly and facilitating so well, as always.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. I hope that, for me, it was beneficial anyway. I was running up and down and doing whatever, but I was listening all the same, and there's just so much gems, so thank you guys. Please, we want to keep doing these, we want to keep improving them, we want to make them bigger and better, so please scan this QR code and fill out our feedback form. We'll leave it up, rotating between this and another one. And then we also have another slide. Or not? No. Maybe. Sorry, we also have another slide where basically you can fill out a form to work with us. So if you want us to come into your workplace and hold a session like this, we don't always do finance, we explore different industries, but at the main core of what Black at Work does is basically to do training. So anti-racism training, diversity inclusion training, anti-oppression training, and also just a safe space for Black employees in the workplace. So if you know you need something like this where you work and you want to talk to your manager or your line manager, we'll get this working, but still come and see me all the same. We're more than happy to come and facilitate that. And also big thank you to Lloyds, Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca.
For hosting us. Come and say a thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
No, thank you. I think it's been such a great conversation. So, as mentioned, Rebecca Tate, I'm the Regional Development Director for the Midlands, and my job's all around inward investments into the city, and the Black entrepreneur community and Black professional community is a key part of that. I can relate so much to what you've all been saying. I joined the industry, the banking industry, 11 years ago. And it was, my mum was a single parent, and my year was the year of university fees when it astronomically went up. And my mum said, Rebecca, what are you going to do? Because I can't afford to send you to university. And I went online and I Googled degree programmes that paid, and that's exactly what I found. I found a great programme, a higher apprenticeship programme as it's called now, that paid for me to go to university whilst I could still earn a small income. And for me, working in the banking industry was where I truly got to understand the value of money, putting it into practice and theory and learning from others as well. I got to work in deprived communities as well as the most wealthiest communities, and seeing the comparison between them all really brought it down to value for me and to practice for me. So I would just want to say a big thank you to Renee and Ivy for allowing us at Lloyds Bank to host this event, and of course to our panellists for sharing such great insight and your time with us as well. So thank you to everyone for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you.